I think we are now live and a little bit ahead of time as my clock ticks over to 3 o'clock. Welcome everybody to the next instalment of the Talent Waste Show. And as you know, if you've been watching, you've been listening to us avidly over the past 6, 7, 8 weeks or so, we're on a mission to find out if talent waste exists through research on the Talent Waste Show. What is talent waste? We believe talent waste affects organisations across all industries. It occurs when an employee leaves an organisation prematurely. Office of National Statistics state that between 30 and 45% of employees leave organisations within the first year, meaning that employees around the world aren't really getting a return on investment, and they've got that kind of rinse and repeat hiring methodology. Harvard Business Review say 80% of employee turnover is due to bad hiring. And Chartered Institute of Personal Development says between £12,000 and £30,000 per year it costs with regards to a bad hire. So some damning stats there, and we've had some outstanding guests on the show so far, looking at unconscious bias, bad cultural fit, efficiency of onboarding process, etc., etc. And the last time out, we had the wonderful Tinu Cornish, the founder of Sea Change Consultancy, and delivered a special podcast on diversity and inclusion, which was an absolute brilliant episode. You can catch up on all of the show via Crowdcast, Spotify. We're now on Spotify. Yes, people, we are actually on Spotify. It's fantastic. On YouTube as well. At Phoenix51 is the handle. You can check out my LinkedIn page, Lee McQueen, of course, or you can go to the website, phoenix51.io. Now, today, get into this wonderful, wonderful guest that we've got. The expert of all things recruitment technology, we have today Rob Green. After an amazing career with the likes of Huawei, Capita, and then HireServe, Rob founded RecTech to pursue his genuine love and interest in the recruitment technology space, and more importantly, to solve one of the biggest problems in the recruitment and HR industry. What tech should we choose? We don't know. I'm delighted to spend the next 30 minutes or so with Rob. Welcome, Rob, to the Talent Waste Show.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the glowing introduction. I really hope I can live up to that over the next 30 minutes or so. For those that don't know me, I'm Rob Green. I'm the founding director of RecTech, the organisation that's changing the way that recruiters buy software with our free and impartial comparison tool for technology buyers. I have worked in the industry for over 15 years, and I've been fortunate enough to gain a range of experience in different roles and work in a number of different countries around the world as well, including Australia, South Korea, and Canada. I started my recruitment career as an agency recruiter working for Reed. I had roles in both the UK and Australia, and it was a super experience. But after a number of years working in an agency role, like many people do, I wanted to see what life was like on the other side of the fence. And I joined a global telecoms business called Huawei, managing their recruitment across the UK and Ireland. And that is where I implemented my first applicant tracking system. That essentially changed my career.
Amazing stuff. And it's easy for me to pronounce Huawei. I'm glad that you got it by being an employee. Exactly that. You then went on, interestingly, because I spent the best part of 8.5 years at the same organisation. You went on to Capita, didn't you?
That's right. I think that's where you and I first overlapped. And
we did.
For me, after that first ATS implementation, which kind of brought together all of my skills, and it leaned on a lot of the skills I developed and the experience I gained, I really didn't want to go back to recruiting. For me, I kind of found the path that I wanted to follow, and that was technology implementation. And that's when I joined Capita. I joined Capita because I wanted to find a way of being able to essentially perform implementations on repeat and learn lots about different technologies, learn a lot about the technology landscape. The thing that kind of closed the door for me to kind of complete my experience was to join HireServe in 2014, and I worked there for 5.5 years as their head of services before I founded RecTech at the end of 2019.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a really interesting career.
Yeah, for sure. Fantastic journey. And actually, as I alluded to in the intro there as well, you generally have a love and interest for recruitment technology, don't you?
100%. Yeah. Over the 15 years that I've been working in the industry, I think you're probably going to come on to talk about challenges, but I've seen some of these challenges, and it's just created, this real desire to want to create something that improves the lives of recruiters and supports the industry. And that's really what I've spent the last year and a half to 2 years developing.
For sure. Well, I did say in intro, what technology shall we choose? And that comes onto getting into some of the detail, really. Like, what are the, I suppose, specific challenges that you've seen or your clients have faced during your time through RecTech and obviously the implementation experiences that you've had? Like, what are you challenges you finding in the current environment?
I think it's a really interesting question because there are so many challenges for recruiters, especially right now with all of what's going on. But throughout my career, I've witnessed countless times how difficult it is for an organization to select the right technology provider. Managing an ATS implementation, for example, is something that most recruiters will only be involved in maybe once or twice in their career. From our own research, we know that over 35% of organizations don't implement the best solution for their needs. And from my experience, there are a number of reasons for this. Firstly, there isn't a defined way of buying recruitment tech, and there are so many vendors out there that it's really hard to know where to start. In the UK and Ireland market alone, we know there are over 450 applicant tracking system providers. I don't think there's not an organization on the planet that's going to invest all of the time and resource required to evaluate absolutely every single provider.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's the sheer volume of providers out there. It's overwhelming. So, even swimming in this ocean of technology providers, as I do every single day and talking tech all the time, I still come across solution providers that I've never heard of. And sometimes they've been around for years. That happens, I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but on a regular basis, we come across new technology providers that have actually been around for years that people haven't heard of. So our job's been really to learn as much about them as possible.
I was going to say, and is that part of RecTech as well in terms of your mission, is to kind of given clients the insight into the best way forward or the different options that they may or may not have or what will actually work for me. 35% seems a pretty high figure to me. A third of people that choose an ATS get it wrong effectively. That's quite a damning stat. It is,
and it's a fact. And I think the reason why that's the case is because it's so difficult to choose the right provider. A lot of the time you might not even be aware that the best solution provider for your needs even exists. There are so many solutions out there and they're all unique. And we need to also remember that every organization that goes to look for a piece of tech, they have their own unique set of requirements. The business I founded in 2019 that I've been working so hard on has really been to kind of bring those together and connect those technology buyers with the right platforms in a really quick and easy way.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting as well, just following on from that. I mean, you talk about not knowing some technology or some suppliers or some businesses even in existing. A lot of people when they're watching the show or they're listening back to the show via Spotify, they'll be thinking, oh yeah, ATSs, I know who the top ones are, but actually there's so, as you just said, there's so many different ones that actually could be able to flex that configuration. I actually remember it was at the business that we were both at the same time, when we're trying to implement a massive ATS implementation and the configuration from department to department, let alone one particular business, was so vast. It can be a minefield, can't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and with so many different providers out there and all of them presenting a slightly different solution, it's really, really key to find the right one. And when it comes to implementation, it's another story. Some organizations will train you to implement it yourself. Some of them will take you through a defined process that they have to implement their solution, where they'll collect the requirements, they'll configure the solution to meet your needs, and then they'll support you post go live. There are lots of different organizations that have their own approach with this. And that's definitely something to be thinking about as well when you embark on this journey, is the people behind the technology and the people you're going to be working with once you go down this path of finding the right solution.
We obviously Talent Waste is part of our wider kind of interest as well in terms of Phoenix 51, which is a technology platform. It's not an ATS, of course, but it's a digitalized people assessment. We get quite a lot of, not pushback, but quite a lot of questions around, I don't think our business is quite mature enough for this yet. I'm not sure that we're ready to implement this type of technology. Maybe they have an ATS and they've got some functionality in there, but not everything that they need. How important is it that the organizations look for everything they need, or, 40-50% of their need, or configure as they go. Like when with my other business, my recruitment business hat on, when we chose our ATS, we wanted to partner with an organization that would actually flex and configure. Does that make sense? So actually, they were a startup, then not a startup, but they were a smaller size business. So they had a lot of agility or a lot of flex to be able to partner with us. So as our needs change, as we grow, they could actually help us and configure the system to our changes. Is that important as well, Rob, in your experience?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you are entering into not just a contractual relationship, but you're entering into a technology partnership where you're essentially going to be working with this vendor. As your business goes through growth and change, you need to be able to adapt the technology that you're using to be able to support the changes that are happening within the business. And the first thing I say to everybody that's looking for recruitment tech, and I know it might sound really, really obvious, but know what you're looking for. When you enter the market for tech, the first thing you should do is, and I know this is easier said than done because people often don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
You need to be focused on finding the right type of solution. So have a good understanding of your business requirements. Take a look at things like what are the specific problems that you'd like to solve, and what are the specific objectives that you'd like to, that you'd like the technology to support. I think also having a good understanding of this will put you in a position to find the right solution for your needs. And I think it's a really good suggestion to map out your processes. Really think about each of the steps within your recruitment process and think about who performs them. Why do they occur? When do they occur? How long do they take? Is there a good way or is there a sensible way of making any of those process steps faster? Do you even still need to perform some of those process steps? These are the kind of things that you can really be thinking about when you implement a piece of tech. And I think you also need to understand when you implement a piece of tech that it's not just about taking what you currently do and adding a technology layer over the top.
Yeah.
It's about reviewing what you do and understanding how technology can help you to do it better, faster, and smarter, and how you can leverage the added benefits that technologies can bring, such as improving your user experience or improving your candidate experience, strengthening your employer brand, reducing time across the hire. And more importantly than anything else, in my opinion, it's about helping you to identify and secure the best talent for your needs.
Yeah. God, sorry, I interrupt with you.
I was going to say that leads really well into talent waste.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it does. I mean, some of the stuff that you're talking about there is quite interesting because we talk about, our platform, Phoenix 51, it has solves the key problem of talent waste, or essentially retention. Like I said at the top of the show, we are on a mission to see whether or not, talent waste, as we're calling it, actually does it exist. There's a lot of meetings that happen every single day in businesses around the globe, and I'm trying to identify and understand, are people actually talking about this? Is this a problem? This rinse and repeat recruitment cycle where we bring somebody in, 5 of them work, 1 of them doesn't, 1 of them leaves the business, even though we wanted them to stay here, and then we have to rinse and repeat again, and we go again, and all of them cost and all of that loss. But actually that business efficiency, that employee brand, everything that you've just talked about as well, it's actually all encompassing, in my opinion. So actually to get that recruitment part right, utilizing technology and enabling technology to support us and help us, surely to me that makes absolute sense. And I just want to throw it back to you. In your experiences, have you seen this work in firsthand once technology has been implemented?
100%. Actually, I've lost count how many times I've seen this succeed. I personally have managed over 60 ATS implementations, and that is always starting with a process that is broken or convoluted. And I think certainly my favorite part of my role is actually being responsible, if you like, for helping an organization to achieve their business objectives. And talent waste, in my opinion, is not a new thing. I think this is something that's been around for a long time in my mind, and probably longer than we've been alive. Recruitment didn't start happening 20 years ago. Recruitment's been around for a really long time. And I think now that it's being kind of called out, I guess, and having a spotlight shine on it, it's a great thing. And I think people have different perceptions and opinions about what this issue is. I think as a result of that, there are a range of solutions that are popping up in the market that address the issue in a slightly different way. Yeah. So it makes it even more important, I think, to make sure that you identify how each of those solution providers can meet the specific needs of a business. I think, for me here, it's about hiring the right people in the first place. I know I said that earlier, but I think that is key. It's about finding the right people in the first place. And I really do believe that technology plays a very big part in that.
I was just going to interact with you there. How do you see technology growing? I mean, do you think that you have to go all in? For example, like big technology, right? I'm looking to streamline our processes. I'm looking for better business efficiencies. I'm looking for better retention of staff or talent management. Right, all in some big, big ATS or big HR system. Or are you a believer in actually taking a problem area within the business, implementing technology, seeing how it works, seeing how it grows, and then layering on top of that? I mean, what's your kind of viewpoint on that with your experiences in implementing over 60 ATSs?
It's a good question. And I think one thing to bear in mind, we're in 2021. Most organizations now have an applicant tracking system, or if you're a recruitment agency, maybe use a recruitment CRM. So I don't necessarily think it's always about ripping out what you've got and starting again. In fact, I'd always recommend that you look at processes first and how you can potentially adapt or evolve your current technology. It's always going to be the quickest and potentially cheapest solution. You might be working with a technology provider and you might have been in that relationship using that same piece of tech for the last 5 or 10 years. If you haven't retained a really strong partnership with the technology vendor, you might not be aware of what their current capabilities are. You might not have kept in the loop with the product that you're using and what it actually could do if you revisit it. So the first thing you should always do, if you're using recruitment tech already, don't rip out everything and build an entirely new recruitment tech stack. You want to be thinking about how can we potentially get more out of what we're currently using. And that's the first place to start. And I think it always starts with looking at your current process and going through all of those things like I said earlier about checking each step. Think about when it's done, how it's done, how long it takes, who's doing it. I think if you do that bit first and then consult with your existing technology provider, and I'm doing myself out of a job here, because we help people to find new technology. But, I also have a real commitment to this industry. I want to solve a problem. But if the problem is, it's not in every case. I think in every case, you need to look at your existing tech first. I think anyone that knows what they're doing with tech and recruitment would probably agree with that.
I think the problem comes when you're looking at your existing technology potentially is if that existing technology is in itself, the software or the dev on that technology is actually becoming outdated. And that is a separate problem, isn't it? I mean, I've worked in businesses, previous to setting up Phoenix 51, whereby people are, I didn't realize I did that. We've had it for 5 years, and you're thinking, it does track your emails. Have you not got that set up? And it's that kind of customer success piece, or as it's called in the tech industry, like customer service piece, to actually check in with your partners, check in with your suppliers to understand actually we are getting the best out of the technology that we've got. But I think when the technology becomes dated in itself, that becomes a different problem, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And from my experience, if I go back to say Capita and HireServe, for example, we would always conduct regular review meetings. We would always, open up support sessions, and we'd also produce things like webinars of new features and functionality that we share with customers. And the whole purpose behind that is to make sure that your customer is keeping in touch with what you're doing and maximizing the value that they get from your solutions, so that they don't leave and go somewhere else. So in my view, there's a bit of an obligation when you're using a piece of technology to participate and to make sure that you are staying in touch with what the vendor is doing, and that you do work to retain a really strong partnership. Get some consultancy, speak to them on a one-to-one basis, perhaps every 6 or 12 months, and continuously maximize the tech that you're using.
Completely agree. I could not agree more with that. Rob, in your experiences, having been through the career that we talked about at the beginning of the show, and not just only on the technology side, but also being part of that hiring process, hiring people yourself, managing staff, what do you think would be a really good improvement in that kind of phase of hiring, to take away that, or to mitigate the risk of unconscious bias, to mitigate the risk of being unconsciously biased to certain things, or to diversity and inclusion, that type of stuff. Have you got any experiences in that at all?
It's a difficult problem to solve, isn't it? Because like I kind of alluded to earlier, I think a lot of people have a different opinion or interpretation of what the issue is. And that's why I think there are so many different technologies that exist in the market. I think it's because a vendor only hears what they hear. And if they work with, I don't know, let's say 100 or 1,000 customers, they only have the information that's being shared to them about what the issue that's being experienced within the recruitment and HR industry. So I do think it's a difficult problem to solve, because I think until you have a very good understanding of what the issue is, it's difficult to build a concrete solution, right?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. We had Tinu Cornish on here the last episode, and she's an expert. She chatted with my business partner and my business brother, as we call each other, Chris Wimshurst, about diversity and inclusion, and both of them are qualified business psychologists as well. So it's a fantastic episode. And we also done in actual fact, you talk about webinars, we've done a webinar event over in Australia a couple of weeks ago. And we had Peter, who's the founder of Diversity Atlas, which is another piece of fantastic technology that talks about that diversity and inclusion piece. And what I found quite interesting about it is the amount of information or data and insights that you can get from your people internally to actually start to drive them different efficiencies. If businesses out there at the moment are looking for a way to mitigate unconscious bias, or to look at that diversity and inclusion piece, there are some fantastic technologies available to them, isn't there?
Totally. There's a range out there, and again, it comes back to what I said a moment ago about every vendor having their own interpretation of what the problem is. There are tools out there, like take video interviewing, for example. In addition to face-to-face video interviews, some solution providers offer functionality to perform one-way video interviews. And in principle, it is a super time-saving feature, as you're able to evaluate more candidates using consistent criteria in far less time than it would take you to interview them in person. I think everybody would probably agree with that. If you're going to sit in front of a dozen candidates and talk to them or ask them the same 10 questions, it makes total sense to record the questions and send them to the candidate and allow them to record their response remotely.
And also you're taking away that scheduling element of it as well, which again is very, very complex. Some ATSs are fantastic with that scheduling side, but then from a technology development perspective, scheduling is one of the hardest things to develop around. So actually you're taking away that development, that scheduling element by doing them one-way interviews. I'm glad you brought it up, and I love your impartiality, but Phoenix 51 obviously offers that clearly to all the listeners and viewers out there. But no, I mean, all jokes aside, that is one of the key functionalities that we've got within our platform, because actually what we're seeing when you're looking at becoming business efficient, if you've got, I'll just give you an example. Say you've got a big volume project on, I don't know, 5,000 applications, for example, and you want to meet every single one of them applications rather than having a telephone screen. You've got a telephone screen, 5,000 people, you've got to schedule them in, you've got to physically have to be there. But actually, all you have to do is ping them a link. They can actually respond to the same questions. You get to meet them via that video, even if it's a one-way. You start to review them and get some real rigor around, how they answer them, the behaviours and the competencies, scoring them, qualitative and quantitative data. And it really, really makes a huge difference in terms of not only business efficiency, but then you see a knock-on effect of that, because you start to be able to measure what your ratios are from going from screen, so telephone screen or solo or video interviewing, through to competency-based interviewing, and how many people you can start to get through in that. So for us, it's been a very, very good tool to utilize, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think not only does it save, it's got time and cost-saving benefits attached to it, and video interviewing will also reduce travel, for example. But it can also be a really great solution for organisations that recruit a high volume of customer-facing roles, for example.
Definitely.
Having said that, not everybody is on the same page with video interviewing. Not everybody's adopted it yet. I do think we've come a step closer because of the pandemic. I think we've got to the point where people have been kind of forced to interact remotely, to collaborate remotely, and also recruitment has to go on. Businesses continue to lose staff that they need to replace. They continue to grow, and whilst you can't meet people face to face, video interviewing becomes much higher up the priority list. But there's also, I guess, a potential there for, for it to open the door to other issues such as unconscious bias, discrimination, and we might potentially be excluding people that maybe don't feel comfortable with a video interview. So there's a few solution providers out there as well that are offering alternatives to video interviewing, like voice interviews, which essentially, they're a time saver on traditional telephone interviews. And they address some of those concerns, but then you get the disadvantage of not being able to, for example, see how well a candidate presents himself in person. So this is what I mean. I think depending on your organisation and how you view this issue of D&I, depends on what the solution might be best for you.
I completely agree. And again, first-hand experience of this happening this year. I mean, we started Phoenix 51 in September. We launched September 2020. My recruitment business, War Talent, been going for 10 years. So we've got a rigorous process, 27,000 lines of data showcasing, different patterns of people that could work in this environment and that industry and this type of industry and so on and so forth. So lots of different data, lots of different insights. But with the solo interview or the link that you can ping out, switching the video off and still listening to their voice is absolutely one thing to do. To be able to come back into a competency-based interview, whether or not that's virtual like we are today, or whether or not that's in a physical environment, it does really boil down to what the organization's culture and values are. What fits with that organization themselves. And I think the key point for me is understanding what them cultures and values are of the organization in the first place, because that's how you're going to get better people anyway coming into your organization. Understand their competencies, understand their values, understanding their the culture of the organization, and essentially, Rob, matching that with the individuals, with the employees that are coming in through the door, because that's when you start to get traction. That's when you start to get a real. We talk about a partnership approach with technology providers and technology vendors, but what about a partnership approach with your employees? That's the bit that you start to really gain on. So I think there's some really, really strong initiatives out there in technology. And again, just quickly on the technology side, you mentioned about travel. This is fantastic. You're almost doing my job for me, Rob. And I can't tell you enough of how many times businesses will fly, pay for travel, pay for expenses, parking, whatever it is, for big assessment centres, whether or not they're in a central location in the UK or in central New York, or might be downtown Austin, whatever it might be, wherever you are in the world. And people and businesses will fly and put. Technology is enabling you to do the same, have the same outcome, same effects, fantastic quality, but without any of that cost. So when people talk to me about, it costs so much money to implement this technology, well, not really, because once you've implemented it, you're going to be saving almost just from your travel expenditure, and then the business efficiencies, the quality that you get, and the return of investment for that retention piece is unmeasurable in a certain way. So it's a huge benefit, isn't it, implementing technology in some instances?
I just couldn't agree more. I'm a massive advocate of tech, as I said at the top of the show. I think anything that can help us to recruit the right people in a quicker, more efficient, and a more cost-effective manner has got to be a good thing. Some people will say you can't beat looking somebody in the eye. Even now, I'm sort of looking at you in the eye. The camera's up there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at you now. Look, and it is that you do lose a little bit of that. But you do. That's fine.
A little bit of that, and sometimes you can only see people from chest down. I'm wearing shorts. You probably couldn't tell. It's really, really hot here.
By all accounts, you meet you. That's like 30 degrees.
But I wouldn't wear shorts to an interview.
No, exactly. What's interesting about that point actually is we onboarded. We took on 4 BDRs in December for Phoenix 51, and we only started to meet. We only physically met them about 3 weeks ago. Like physically, because we didn't know how tall people were, and again, you talk about unconscious bias. I'm not saying that we would be unconsciously, well, it's unconscious, right? So you wouldn't know, but maybe I don't like employing short people, or don't like employing tall people. I don't know, but virtually, you don't get to see them, like you say. It's just literally from chest upwards, and that's what you see. So there has been some benefits. The challenges for us being a people assessment business, for want of a better expression, has been then group tasks, getting people together, having debates, having the group sessions virtually, I think for any business that's done a kind of a brainstorming session, if you like, or a company get together virtually, they have been a challenge. But I think because we've now been operating in the way that we have for the last kind of 18 months, I think there has been some, I don't want to say workarounds, but I think some new solutions to getting away with that. I don't think it's ever going to replace you and I in a room together physically. You know, you couldn't watch a football match, for example, or live music and pretend to be the same atmosphere as actually being live. There's certain things that you can't recreate. But again, coming back to your point, businesses need to make the decision to say, well, what's the balance here? Because actually, if you're saving 40%, 50%, if you're retaining 82% of your staff rather than losing, another 20 or 30% of your staff, and you're saving 300,000-400,000 a year, actually, it's probably worth implementing that technology for efficiency and cost saving, isn't it?
Definitely. And coming back to the whole D&I piece, because I think that's becoming a more and more important subject that I think a lot of organizations are kind of putting onto their agenda. There are solutions out there to that as well. And I think something that we've seen that's been in the industry, or it's been in the technology market for a really long time, that I think is probably going to evolve, is the whole anonymization piece, or the blind recruitment piece. And I don't mean recruitment of blind people. I mean, essentially redacting information that you're putting in front of a hiring manager until a candidate gets to a certain part of the process, such as interview, for example. That kind of technology has been around for a long time, but there are only a few solution providers out there that can, for example, redact a CV. Hiring managers want to see a CV, and they come in all shapes and sizes. It's a really difficult thing to achieve technically.
You are now absolutely talking. I knew you'd be a good guest, Rob. I've been banging the CV drum for over 10 years. Now, I do not understand why you need to hire based on a CV. The CV in some instances is 500 years old, and some people will say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You do need to see a CV. You do need to see their work history. Now, what you need to see is the attitude, the behaviors, the values of that individual coming into the business. The skills we can teach. We can teach you the skill, the relevant skill for whatever role. What we can't do is we can't teach you the right attitude. That comes from your upbringing, that comes from your beliefs, your environment, your values. And actually hiring based on competency, hiring based on behaviors, hiring based on values, to me is so much, it's just a no-brainer. Like, why would you need to see a CV or a resume for that? And, sometimes implementing technology is a change process, isn't it? It's a mindset change. It's, I've always done this, so I'm not going to change. But actually, or I've always done this, I've always asked them questions, or I've always interviewed in that way, I've always done this. That is what technology is enabling us to change. But sometimes it is a change process, isn't it? You have to go through that change process before we can adopt the new processes of technology. What's your kind of viewpoint on that?
I know. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it is going back to what I said earlier about understanding what your requirements are. I think it's about not just understanding your business objectives and challenges as an organization, but also reviewing the technologies that are out there that can help you to address them. But I think it always starts with knowing what it is you're looking for and what options are available before you can consider anything. And hiring managers, a lot of hiring managers do still want a CV, and I'm in complete agreement with you, because I understand the technology that you're talking about and the kind of value that it adds. And I've seen a lot of success stories. I've seen things start to improve dramatically over a really short space of time. So I do agree that over time, I think the CV will start to diminish, if you like.
10 years I've been banging that drum.
Well, most people have a LinkedIn profile, right? If you want to see my experience and my history, it's on there. Go and have a look. But it doesn't work for every role.
Do you know what? That actually is another problem that we need to start to solve, because LinkedIn, one of the most powerful social media, certainly in the business world, on the planet. And you talk about redacting of voice, or redacting of video, or redacting of CVs, or whatever. Social media is so powerful now. Like, if I got an interview unless I redacted your name and redacted your face and redacted everything else, I could go and look you up wherever. Do you know? I can go and look on your LinkedIn profile, on your Twitter profile. You probably post on Instagram. I can find out whether or not you're running for Cancer Research UK based on your Facebook page. You know, there's so much information that's readily available. Actually, Rob, about our lives, about our actual behaviours, not our professional, the persona that we put on to get a job, but actually who we actually are. And I think that we, as a society, I think we should not worry about, be who we are. Let's be who we are. Like, not put that kind of that gated approach up for potential employers. And that's the bit that for me is that, I think the employer wants me to be like this, so that's how I'm going to be. If you start to remove them barriers via technology or via different processes, then you're actually going to get a better or a true reflection. It comes back down to values and behaviors and competencies for me, because actually that's what you can see. So it's all very well a piece of technology saying, let's interview Rob, but we'll redact Rob from the screen so you don't know what he looks like. But I can just go on your LinkedIn profile, or I could just go on your page.
That's the thing, right? The whole redacting piece is designed to redact any personally identifiable information. So you wouldn't see my email address, you wouldn't see my name, I'd be a number. And you would only be able to see the things that we're both agreeing are really important. The values, the competencies, the skills. The thing that I really want to make a hiring decision on, if you take all of the other stuff out of the equation, you can't identify that individual until you've actually made a decision that this individual is the kind of person that fits within the role that I'm recruiting for. And then you might then invite the candidate to an interview. Of course, at that point, you're going to need to know their name. Otherwise, they're going to come into the room. You're going to say, "Hello, nice to meet you, 162497." I don't know.
Exactly. I suppose technology does play a big part in that, because AI, technology, and utilizing artificial intelligence to make them decisions. Some say that it's 100% free of unconscious bias. Other articles that I've read and people that I've spoken to is to say no, it's not, because AI starts to learn that this is the way to do things, and all of a sudden that becomes biased about making them decisions. So it's very, very difficult to eradicate unconscious bias. I think to mitigate against, and to have tools and data and insights to be able to showcase to you, do you know what? This hiring manager has made these amount of hires over this period of time, and there's a pattern forming. And this is what the pattern looks like. You've got the information, now do as you will. That might be that you do some sort of training around that. It might be that you do that you change part of that process. But for me, it's about the data and insights to be able to mitigate rather than eradicate. I don't know what you think.
Completely agree. Yeah, it builds over time, doesn't it? And I think AI is all about having the intelligence in the first place, and that intelligence comes from lots and lots of data that basically says this is the objective we're trying to the objective we're trying to get to, and this is exactly how there's a pre-prescribed way of getting there from A to Z. We know exactly what it looks like, and therefore we can introduce AI that can take all of those key metrics and take somebody from here to here. I'm not an AI expert, but I understand that having a piece of tech that's going to make decisions for you needs to be based on intelligence, in order to make it artificial. To train a machine in order to make decisions for you, we have to know what the right decision looks like, and it has to be proven over and over and over again before it can become reliable.
Yeah, and I think the trouble or the problem that we're trying to solve there is that humans are unique. So people are unique. Breaking news. There's only one Rob Green. Although some people say that you might have played in goal for England and West Ham back in the day, but I obviously won't be saying that, of course. There's only one Lee McQueen, although a very famous Alexandra McQueen was actually called Lee McQueen as well. So maybe my statements are incorrect, but the point I think that you and the viewers and the listeners are knowing is that we are very unique as a race, as a human race. So actually, there's not one person that's exactly the same fit as somebody else, and therefore, to get that this is exactly the type of person that we want is always changing, isn't it? It's always different. Even if you want a senior project manager, and this is the job spec that you want, you will probably get 5 or 6 people that can be very, very good at doing that job. 20 people, but they'll all be different. And that's, I think that's the beauty of recruitment, isn't it?
You have been through one of the, I wasn't going to talk about this, but you have been through one of the toughest interview processes in the world, right? Trying to be a business partner with Lord Sugar. You know, it wasn't turned up for an interview. There was a bit more to it than an application form or a video interview, you know, but they identified the right person.
Yeah, I was just going to interact with you there. Look, I mean, I am glad you brought it up because I like talking about it. Thank you to talk about it often. Yeah, you're right. And, you know, there's a lot of recruiters actually that have gone through that process and been very good at it and won. You know, I take my hat off to anybody that puts themselves forward to challenge themselves, which is what I did all them years ago. But I think that if you look at it on a broader scale, what is The Apprentice? It is a giant assessment centre. And basically, we are putting Lord Sugar and his staff are putting you through tasks, exercises that enable them to see whether or not you've got the right behaviour, the right attitude, the right competencies, the right values for him to be able to work with, to nurture, to be a business partner with. And for me, I just look at it that's one of the reasons why the belief that I have right now are my beliefs, because hiring based on values and culture and competencies, behaviours is critical for success. It's why we can get such a higher retention rate when organisations are using our technology or ultimately our processes. And look, as you said before, the ATSs have some outstanding capabilities now in some of the ATSs that are out there in some of the HR systems. There's a lot of organisations that are actually having fantastic joy with parts of that process and then using plug-in technologies, for want of a better expression, to create their tech stack. And it really just depends on what they're looking for as an organisation to get them right hiring decisions. If you can get the hiring decisions right, I was with somebody very senior within the industry a couple of weeks ago. I won't name them because it would embarrass them a bit, but they talked to me about war on talent. And they basically said, there is a war on talent, regardless of what sector you're in now, regardless of what industry you're in. There is a war on talent. You know, hospitality, because of the 18 months that hospitality have now had, they are now struggling to get people to come back, because a lot of the people that got left behind, made redundant, you know, furloughed, whatever it is in hospitality, they've gone and found different careers in a different industry. So you know, there is a war on talent and everybody's fighting to be in the front. If we can utilize technology to help us, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah, I think now more than ever, you know, we need to be recruiting smarter. I think it's no longer about posting a vacancy online and shortlisting the best people that apply. It's about doing what the best recruiters have been doing for decades, you know, building and nurturing relationships with candidates before you need them. It's a skill in itself, because you need to have a good understanding of what what talent your business needs well ahead of time. For recruitment agencies, for example, that might be having a look at the organizations that are moving to your area and reviewing the kind of vacancies that they typically recruit for. So that you can put yourself in a position to better support them as soon as they land, if you like. And for in-house recruiters, it's about understanding your business strategy and growth, and looking at where the business is likely to need talent over the coming 6 to 12 months. And then, working really closely with hiring managers to make sure that you have a good understanding of their future needs and what they're likely to look like, so that you can start building those relationships long before you need them.
Well, you mentioned earlier about kind of having a huge relationship with the ATSs, and you mentioned in-house recruiters there as well, of which you're an ambassador for as well. I think IHR have something like 20,000 members, so in-house recruitment members across their network. What, in your opinion, when you're speaking to these members, when you're talking to potential clients, what is the biggest problem that they face? Not necessarily what to choose, but it's a business efficiency, or is it we're spending too much money, or we're not getting value? What is the biggest problem that you see?
From my point of view, and I've worked with lots of organizations, there's always a problem to be solved, right? If you take that problem out of the equation and look at how you're going to solve it, for me, the problem lies with using the right processes and the right technologies to address the problem in the first place. And I have lost count how many times I've been onto, a recruiting group on Facebook or LinkedIn, or, even on the IHR forum, where people will reach out and say, we're looking for an ATS, which one would you recommend? And they leave it up to the other 19,999 people on the forum to tell them what ATS they need. And of course, they're not necessarily the best people. There are definitely some experts on there. I'm on there. In order to actually answer that question, you need to know specifically what it is that organization needs. And for me, that's about having a good understanding of the requirements. And I think most organizations are not necessarily equipped to deal with that. So I think if you're not familiar with your specific requirements, or you're not necessarily in a position to conduct a detailed requirements analysis, then I think it's about talking to an expert. Paying someone to come in and perform this activity with you won't take long. It won't cost much, and it should really set you up to succeed. And I think having someone that has been through the process many, many times before, who has a good understanding of the technology landscape, will not only set you up on the right path, but they'll help to ensure that you're best equipped to find the right solution provider and prevent you from making a potentially insurmountable mistake of choosing the wrong one.
And that could effectively be very, very costly as well. Very costly indeed. Some of these bigger organizations I'm sure you've dealt with, you're talking 2, 3, 4 million pounds worth of probably upwards of that as well. We're not just talking 50 quid a month license for 10 people. You're talking a £3 million program management piece here of integration. So I suppose on that, I've just looked at the time. I knew we'd talk 3 million. I knew it. I'm back on the show. Hello everyone, I'm back. I want to leave the guests really with something. And as a leader in your field, Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. What is a piece of advice you could give to other professionals? What would your top tips be, or what would you leave people with?
If I wanted to say anything on this show that's going to give people the advice, I've spent years building a platform that is designed to solve this problem for users that are in this position. And there are many, many organizations out there that are looking to either review their existing tech or buy an applicant tracking system for the first time. Like I said earlier, my job over the last 15 years and more focused on the whole market over the last couple has really been to learn as much about technology vendors that are out there and the solutions they offer as we can. We have conducted an immense amount of research and partnered with a wide range of technology vendors to try and solve this problem by creating a unique marketplace for employers and agencies, which is built on a centralized database of validated vendor information. There's already 85,000 bits of vendor information in there. So it's we've got a platform which is built on a great deal of validated information that can give users very quickly and easily, we can quickly and easily point them in the right direction. So I would say if you are in the market for recruitment technology, quick plug, please have a look at the RecTech website, rectech.io. There are a whole bunch of features and functions in there. It's not just about quickly comparing what's available in the market and making the right decision. It's also about evaluating those suppliers. If you follow a formal tender process, we can automate the entire RFI process for you to make it much quicker and easier. Loads of value-add stuff in there. I'm not gonna plug anymore.
Where can everybody find you? I'm sure everyone would be really interested to. So obviously you said about your website. You're on LinkedIn, of course. Is there any other channels they can find you on?
I'll put the link to the website just down here in the chat. I'll ping a link to my LinkedIn profile. You'll find all of our contact details on the website though. So please, if anything that I've said today kind of resonates with you, or you might get some value from a quick, free, impartial discussion about what it is you need, please come and talk to me. I'm friendly, I don't bite, and I'll give you as much information and advice as I can.
And Rob wears shorts as well, based on podcast. You got it here.
You're in Spain, aren't you, today?
I am in Spain at the moment. Yes, correct. And I think it's. I think the UK is touching on the same temperatures as Spain. Although I'm hitting 38, so I don't know what wow. my lovely colleagues and friends and business associates are hitting in the UK. But it's 38 degrees here at the moment, which is why I'm in an aircon room.
I've got a fan over here. That's about it. But yeah, we've been to about 32 degrees this week. It's been pretty consistent. And I've got to be honest, I'm quite looking forward to the weekend when things start to cool down a bit.
In classic UK style, you'll probably have a thunderstorm at some stage, and by the weekend it'll be raining. So hopefully that won't be the case. But I will be back. So I'll be back on Monday. So I'll be sharing the British blighty weather with everybody else. Rob, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I'm sure we'll get you back on in the future as well to give us some updates. I did want to touch just quickly on Smart Recruiters being named on the NASDAQ, a $1.5 billion technology company that is specifically around recruitment and HR tech. Amazing achievement, isn't it, for everybody involved?
Yeah, I've got a number of contacts at Smart Recruiters, and one of them posted something on LinkedIn a few days ago. You know, he joined the business in 2015 when Smart Recruiters was worth 50 million. It's come a really, really long way in the last 6 years or so. 1.5 billion is a massive achievement. So yeah, massive kudos, hats off to Smart Recruiters.
It just goes to show how big the technology, recruitment technology and HR technology industry is. It is a huge industry in that way, and a huge amount of potential. And like we said the whole way through the show, if we can get the right requirements from potential customers, from clients, we can actually start to drive them efficiencies and cost savings into their business, and actually partner with them. There's no stopping the business, and it is an industry that is definitely on the up for sure.
100%.
Cool. Rob, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, and everybody else as well. Look out for the next show. We've got another 5 or 6 shows in the pipeline already. So like I say, you can follow us on YouTube, on Spotify now. Look out for us on social media as well, at Phoenix 51. And we'll catch you on the next show. Thanks ever so much, everyone.
Thanks so much.